Hi, everyone, and welcome to the You Have the Power To podcast. This is episode 3, and I am so excited that you joined me today. If you don't know who I am, my name is Melinda Van Fleet, and I'm a certified life and business coach, mentor, business consultant, freelance writer, and small business owner with my husband, Ryan, of Good Karma Sport Fishing, which is not only sport fishing, but also coaching and consulting and blogging. And today I have Ryan as a special guest, and how we're going to do that once in a while on this podcast when I feel called is I'm going to ask him to be a special guest to jump in and share any tips or ideas or stories when he feels called to. So it's not going to be about him sharing anything in regards to fishing. We're still going to do a joint podcast together that will crossover between this podcast and the Good Karma Sport Fishing podcast. So that'll be a little different, but this is more for any thoughts on entrepreneurship, on relationships, on mindset, and anything that he may feel that he needs to add because, you know, we've been together for 17 years. 17 years, and we have had our business together, Good Karma Sport Fishing, for 11 years. We're celebrating our 11-year anniversary. And if you don't know us, we started over completely from scratch and moved to the Florida Keys in 2009. So we have quite a bit of history, knowledge, success, wins, and also a lot of struggle and challenges that we have worked through over the years. And so that is the intent with this podcast when I have him as a guest, is he may pipe in here and there if he has something to share or add. So welcome, Ryan.
Hey everybody.
So today is New Year's Day, and pretty much the whole world celebrates this as a holiday, right? If you want to think of it that way. And I posted earlier this morning something that came through very strongly. I posted on Facebook and Instagram, and I might also put it on LinkedIn, but currently it's on Facebook and Instagram if you want to go check out my page and read the post if you haven't seen it already. But it really came through to me how everyone is celebrating their wins of 2022. Which is awesome. But at the same time, they're not mostly, I'm going to say like 95%. I don't think I can think of one post where I've seen someone share also all the struggles. They're not sharing all the challenges. And especially a lot of these people, and especially in the coaching world, they share how much money they made. So you have someone saying they made, $6 million. You have someone saying they made $50 million, $1 million, all these big wins. They're saying they've had the best year ever of their career. And that's all awesome. Love it. But my point is they don't share all the work that they did to get there, which really, you can't do that in like one single Facebook post, right? So that's where, too, in my post, I mentioned Sound Bites, which is a podcast episode I did a couple months ago, and I'll put the link in the show notes here because the Good Karma Success Coach podcast and Crush It in Sales podcast, my 2 former podcasts, still live out there. I'm not going to take them down. So they're still out there to listen to. I'll always just kind of refer back to them for notes. And it really just got me thinking in conjunction with a podcast I had listened to yesterday. And it was Brooke Castillo's podcast, The Life Coach School. I think that's the name of her podcast. And honestly, I rarely listen to any podcasts anymore, except for a few people. But what happened was I got a new phone. I got the Galaxy Flip 4 phone, which is really cool. And I was putting the apps on the phone, and Stitcher is typically where I listen to podcasts. So I put the app on that phone, and then I was kind of just standing there, and I was like, oh, I wonder, who am I subscribed to? What podcast am I subscribed to? I haven't looked at this in a long time. And then I kind of went down the rabbit hole to see what they've talked about lately. So one of them was Brooke Castillo, the Life Coach School, and the podcast title was that she made $50 million last year. I'm like, holy crap, that's amazing. So I used to listen to Brooke way back when, before I was a coach, when I was in sales and I was thinking about getting into coaching. So I was starting to do a lot of the work around, learning how to coach myself and work through lots of challenges. And so it was really cool to listen to that podcast interview. But again, it's a soundbite of how, she really got there, because she mentions that there were tears and she mentions that there's struggles, but you don't really get the full picture of all the work that she has done. She's worked really hard for a long period of time to get to $50 million, right? And so that's where I think it just really stemmed to me, was that, we look at people posting online, we look at their wins, we look at their successes, and often it can be kind of depressing. You can go down this path of really comparing yourself, going, oh, I didn't have that great of a year, or my year, I was kind of stuck. There's lots of people still stuck. Or I had some wins and they were some successes, but it wasn't really that monumental. And it can kind of be depressing. It can get a little depressing. So I really think that it's important, as you go through this journey and you're looking ahead at 2023, that you remember that you have to believe in yourself. And that's what I want to talk about today, is the power of belief. And really understanding that and being grounded and rooted in believing in yourself, because all these distractions, and I'm going to talk about another distraction, can really take you off course. And that's why, most people, they end up quitting. They end up quitting what they're working on. They end up getting discouraged. They may get sidetracked. They may be listening to someone else, and then they get off their course, and they may be so close to that gold, right? You hear those stories that have been out there forever, they're, 5 feet from gold, or like the story of Coca-Cola. Like, there's so many stories out there where people were so close to achieving their goals and dreams. They were right there, right where it was like the hardest part of their challenge. And they gave up. And they went back to doing something else that really isn't what there was their purpose in life, really wasn't what they were working on trying to fulfill. They gave up. They gave up because they listened to someone else, or they compared themselves to someone else, and they felt that they just didn't measure up, and then they quit. So believing in yourself is something that I really hope that everyone can really get rooted and grounded in as you enter 2023, and stay really focused on those principles. Those are just basic, crucial, underlying principles of life, but sometimes we get caught up and we forget about them. So I'm going to ask Captain Ryan what he thinks about what I just said.
That's so true. You have to really believe in yourself. When I started in my business, I really had no entrepreneurship skills.
We both, just so for the record, for our families, we're all W-2s. Like, we had no entrepreneurial background.
Nothing.
Education, family members that helped us in terms of becoming a 1099. Nothing.
I didn't know. I just knew that this is what I wanted to do. And I went ahead and did it. And we just kind of learned along the way. Trial and error. Sometimes we learn the hard way. Mm-hmm. So I tell people, just a lot of people do all the research and do all this stuff. And if I had to go back and do it all over again, and if I was just starting out, and there's so many tools out there today. So if somebody's going to go start a business, the best thing for somebody to do is hire somebody to help them along the way.
Mm-hmm. Right. Hire a coach, a mentor, a consultant.
Hire a coach or mentor or a consultant to help you along the way. It'll save you so much money and heartache, and make things so much easier that you're going to be able to sleep at night. That's the hardest part about being an entrepreneur, is getting some sleep.
Well, when we started, I remember it started from a simple thing that Ryan fished all the time and watched fishing shows all the time, and would once in a while say that he had this dream of being a captain. And I believed in his dream. And so when it all happened and we moved down here, we just kind of figured it out. So it was kind of like what we didn't know. Right. Because sometimes you can be freaked out also by hearing what someone's struggles and journeys were, right? So there's two sides of the coin. So I'm backing up a little bit. There's two sides of the coin. You can get caught up in that too, and it can scare you.
It can.
Right? versus just kind of going in it blindly, blind faith and blind belief and going, you know what, I just really love doing this. I'm going to make this my business and go from there. Because that can be a huge piece of it too.
Yes.
And we didn't. We didn't have anything. We didn't know anything. We didn't have anything. We just had belief.
Right.
Ryan had belief in himself, and then I had so much belief in him that I could push him through any of his doubt.
Yeah, and I tell people, I always had that lifelong dream. It was tucked in my brain. And people ask me this all the time. It's like, did you come down here on vacation? When I first came to the Keys, I was on a spring break on my way down to Key West in the early 90s. I got out of the car and we stopped off at Islamorada, and I got out of the car and we were going to have some lunch, and I looked around and there were all these boats. And I was like, so these guys get to go fishing for a living in this place? And the water was purple that day. It was absolutely gorgeous. And when I got back in the car, things just weren't the same for me. And that meaning that I knew what I wanted to do, and it was tucked way back in my brain, and I didn't share that with anybody. Now that's another thing. You have to be careful of who you share your dreams with. That was something I never shared with anybody.
You never even told me.
I didn't even tell my wife.
I didn't even know that till just now.
I hid that in my brain about what I wanted to do. And I was miserable. I was a miserable human being. But I knew deep down what I wanted to do. And then I shared with Melinda because I knew I could trust her.
But not that story.
Not that story.
Nope. I didn't know that till just now. I'm sitting here going, what?
So my brain works, and everybody asks me, like, how do you catch on so quick? How do you do these things? It's out of the innate nature that you really love to do something. It's going to come naturally.
True.
So it's going to come naturally for you. It's like any sort of athlete. Some people just have that ability. And when it flows nice and you don't have to work too hard at it, then you know you have a gift. Then you can hone in on making your business great. You can work on different angles. You can help other people. But I have to say, you have to be careful of who you're going to share stuff with, because you don't want anybody to...
Well, they're going to mess with your brain.
They're going to mess with your brain.
So where Ryan's going is people are going to mess with your belief system.
Yeah.
And that's the other part of this podcast that we wanted to talk about today. People are going to mess with your belief system. So as I mentioned earlier, you've got the social media thing, right? But then you've got the people thing, the people that you know, the people that you love, the people that you think love you, the people that you think you trust. Like, they will mess with your belief system bigger than anything you can imagine. And you have to keep going. So when we decided to move down here to the Keys, there were so many people that said, oh, you'll be back like in a year, you'll be back in like 1 or 2 years, they made comments, oh, the hurricanes, that was huge, the hurricanes, how are you going to deal with the hurricanes? And it was constant, but we just kept on our course, believing in ourselves. And I remember I was telling Ryan this story this morning, and it was something that I don't think I ever shared with him, but when my grandpa, who I really, really, really loved, my grandpa on my mom's side, my grandma I think she'd either just died or she was very close to dying. And I went back to Illinois. We already lived in the Keys. I was already a very successful sales rep, doing millions of dollars in sales every year in my business that I built from scratch. At one point, I had probably between 40 and 50 companies that I represented. And I remember sitting with my grandpa on the couch, and my mom was sitting there too at the time, because at the time I still spoke to her, because this was when my grandparents were dying. So I remember my grandpa asking me about my sales business, and he had never asked me questions about myself before. And I started telling him, and he was like, well, how do you get paid? So I started explaining how different vendors worked and how it worked, and not like super detailed, but kind of giving oversight. Well, this vendor might pay like this, and then this person might pay like this. And he goes, well, how do you keep like that all straight? And I said to him, like totally seriously, I was like, I'm really smart. He started to laugh at me. He literally started to laugh. Not like in a joking way, not like being a smart ass. No, he like started laughing, like, because he didn't believe me. He really didn't believe that I was smart. So here I was in my 40s, built a very successful sales business. Prior to that, had a very successful career in the corporate world for 16 years with very large companies. And my own grandfather like laughed in my face. Like it was bananas. So even people that you think are like truly on your side, my grandfather really laugh at you. Like it just happens. So you just have to like really stay, again, rooted and grounded in your belief system about yourself, about your potential, because you're going to get hit from the left and the right, from people that you think love you, and they still love you. They may just be going through their own journey. They may have some fears that are bubbling up from their own life, from their past, from their experience, maybe on chances they took and it failed, maybe on chances they didn't take, maybe they wish they would have been able to do something and they couldn't at the time. Maybe it wasn't what was going on right then in society. Maybe they couldn't find a job. Like you don't know what's going on with them and what they need to heal, that then they're transposing that on you. So you have to be really, really aware of that and not let other people's belief system affect your belief system. Please, 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 as you're entering this year, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are someone that is starting over, if you are someone that's a W-2 and you want to be a 1099, you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be in sales, anything like that, like any of that job change, that all takes time to get to that monetary amount. That's why I mentioned Brooke Castillo. And then people are going to try to upset your apple cart along the way and take away your belief system.
That's true.
Yep.
That's the hard talk that nobody wants to hear.
No one wants to hear it. No one wants to hear it. Yep. And please, if you're someone out there and you know someone who's an entrepreneur and you're watching them, and let's say it is a family member. I was going to make this up. Let's say it's your sister. And you know your sister's trying to do something and trying to create this business. Maybe she's trying to create a shop on Etsy, and you see her spending money. You see her trying different things. Like, just please, like, take a moment to think before you open your mouth. Like, take a moment to think. Take a moment, because especially if you don't have the experience, like, really, where is that coming from? Like, why are you even saying anything? So take a moment to think about it before you open your mouth. Like, it is their journey. It is their life. And firing off some piece of advice that's not really helpful isn't going to help anything. It's really not. Like, telling someone that they need to go do something else or look at some other way or get a job or whatever, it's not going to serve anything. So just being supportive, because you have no idea what the outcome is going to be. Like, there are so many extremely successful people that they didn't blossom until they were over 50. Like, so many. The list is endless. And I could spend time going through the list that I know, but I won't. Maybe I'll do it in another podcast. If you all like this podcast, maybe I'll share some of the things that I've read or heard about over the years. But a lot of people don't really come into their own personal success based on their purpose and make a lot of money or be able to help a lot of people, whatever their definition of success is, until they're over 50. So let people have their own journey. Let people have their own journey. I promise you, it will help you feel better too if you come with supportive energy versus energy that is going to try to tear somebody down based on something that you really don't know. Unless you have a crystal ball, you really don't know what is going to happen to that person in their life and into their entrepreneurial journey. So anyhow, is there anything else you want to add?
No, the biggest thing is just believing in yourself and finding someone that, if you have somebody that's believes in you, that's one person. That's a place to start.
Yeah. And all you need, I'm going to be really honest on that too. all you need is one person. Like if you don't need anyone, that's great too. Like there may be people out there that are like, I don't need anyone. I'm cool. Like I got this. But it is nice to have somebody. So like Ryan and I, we have each other. But I also know, based on being in a lot of coaching groups and communities and relationship things I've seen over the years, often your spouse or partner doesn't get it either. Like they may be that person that's not supporting you. They may be that person. It is true. It's even true like in the spiritual lane. Like often I'll see in groups like, my husband doesn't believe in God, or my husband thinks I'm crazy because I meditate, different things like that. That's also support. That's also belief. Whatever your activity is, it could be that you just like painting as a hobby and your husband's telling you you're wasting money painting, right? And it's a hobby that makes you feel good, that releases tension and stress and overwhelm. So there's all sorts of ways that this can really affect a relationship and also affect your belief in yourself. So if you need help with that, like definitely hire a coach if there isn't someone that you can fully trust, because a coach totally gets it. Like I get it, obviously. Ryan would get it if you're someone who would rather work with a dude. Like, yeah. We get it. I get it. I love supporting people in this journey. This is what my mission is. This is why I changed this podcast, so I could speak more about these topics, because I believe more in this route in terms of helping people on a grander scale. But you may have a support system with a good friend, especially if a good friend is an entrepreneur and they've been there and they understand the journey. Someone in a mastermind that you may have connected with. If it's a family member, kudos, that's great. But often the family members are the ones that are the people that are the judgiest. So don't feel bad. Just know that they may have their own healing to do and their own fears to work through in the process. And it just may be coming off as a reflection to you. So that's it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to wrap this up. This is kind of a longer podcast, but I feel like I had a lot to say. There's just been a lot bubbling up on this topic. And if you know me, you know that I follow the breadcrumbs on what my topics should be, and know that that is what I'm being guided to share with the world. And I appreciate you listening. So if you are interested in private coaching or a business audit, please feel free to reach out to me, Melinda at melindavanfleet.com. We can set up a quick discovery call to see what your needs are, or you can just ask for a PayPal link, whatever you prefer. I've worked with coaches both ways, so it's easy. And also, you can also connect with Ryan if you're interested in coaching or consulting with Ryan, and it doesn't have to be about fishing. You are more than welcome to email him at ryan@goodkarmasportfishing.com. And as I mentioned in the beginning of this podcast, we're also both writers and bloggers, so would love to work with you on all sorts of different levels. So until next week, remember that you have the power too. Thanks for listening.